It's been a couple of rather tough weeks in certain areas for President Obama. First, an open mic catches him being a little too honest with the Russian president. Then some tough questions at the Supreme Court convinced some, at least, including our own senior legal analyst, Jeffrey Toobin, who's a real authority on the Supreme Court, that the health care reform law could be in deep trouble right now. All this while getting slammed by his rivals on a daily, sometimes hourly basis out there on the campaign trail. Let's discuss what's going on with the president's communications director, Dan Pfeiffer. Dan, thanks very much for coming in.
Thank you, Wolf.
Let's talk about the health care reform law. I was surprised personally when I heard the president say this the other day. Listen to this.
I have enormous confidence that in looking at this law, not only is it constitutional, but that the court is going to exercise its jurisprudence carefully because of the profound power that our Supreme Court has. As a consequence, we're not spending a whole bunch of time planning for contingencies.
How much time, Dan, are you spending on contingencies, given the enormous stakes involved, the possibility, the real possibility, some would argue, that the Supreme Court will overturn the health care reform law?
Well, as the president said, not very much, Wolf, because as the president said, this law is constitutional. And the point he's been making here is that this is a law that's constitutional, and that's not just the president's opinion. It's the opinion of a wide array of legal scholars from the right and the left, including some of the most conservative appellate court justices out there. And so we feel very confident in that. And the point the president's also been making is that there's a heavy burden on the court here in cases like these Commerce Clause cases, which is why he's confident that it'll be upheld. And, you know, you refer to your friend Jeffrey Toobin there. And the point that I think Jeffrey was making was he was making a prediction about the court, one that, the president clearly disagrees with, but he's not questioning the constitutionality of the law. That's something that very many people agree on, like I said, from the right and the left.
But I would argue, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dan, that given the stakes involved, millions of young kids who are still on their parents' health insurance program as a result of this law, no preconditions, existing health care preconditions, that potentially could go away, caps on how much insurance companies would provide. Isn't it irresponsible not to think about contingencies? It's only a few months away, and if the Supreme Court says these mandates are wrong, the whole thing may collapse.
Well, I mean, rest assured that we'll be prepared when a decision comes. But you raise a very important point here, which is there are very real consequences for real people in America either if this law is overturned by the court or if, as the Republican Party would like, the law is repealed through some other means. There are people who have insurance now whose lives are being saved because they have access to health care they wouldn't otherwise have. That will go away if the law goes away either through the courts or through some sort of legislative repeal. And I think it's incumbent upon particularly those politicians who believe so strongly in repeal, who say they'll do it on day one in office, to explain to the young people who have insurance now why they would take it away, to the children who have pre-existing conditions who were not able to get health care 2 years ago, who can get it now, why they think that should go away. This is not a theoretical exercise. It has real consequences for real people.
And that's why I was saying, I think it would be irresponsible not to think that there could be a 5-4 decision by the Supreme Court ruling it unconstitutional. As a result, I'm hoping that the Department of Health and Human Services officials at the White House are at least going through the process of thinking about that so a lot of people won't suffer. But let me move on to Mitt Romney, who now is really on a daily basis going after the president. The president now is going after him. Here's Mitt Romney speaking today before newspaper editors.
President Obama's comments to President Medvedev are deeply troubling. That incident calls his candor into serious question. He doesn't want to share his real plans before the election, either with the public or with the press. By flexibility, he means that what the American public doesn't know won't hurt him. His intent is on hiding. You and I are going to have to do the seeking.
The point that he and a lot of other Republicans are making, if the president's reelected, doesn't have to worry about another term after that. He's going to do whatever he wants, and the American people potentially could suffer. How do you rebut that coming into this campaign?
Well, I'd say a couple things. Well, first, what the president said to President Medvedev is something that he has said publicly, and he explained the next day. And it's a very simple fact that it is challenging in an election year to deal with such complicated issues like arms control, and that's not a secret, and so it shouldn't be surprising to anyone. Second, the president's plans are very clear. He has been very specific and open. They're available on his website. You know, how he would deal with our deficits, how he would deal with our energy situation, what he wants to do to create jobs in this country. He's very specific. It's not a mystery to the American people what he wants to do. And so this seems like a lot of political games being played by Governor Romney and others. And I would note that I think it was the very day when the president had that meeting with President Medvedev, Governor Romney was asked whether what agencies he would be willing to eliminate or cut as part of his deficit reduction plan. And he said he didn't want to name them because in his previous campaigns, he had talked specifically about eliminating, I think it was the Department of Education, and that had hurt him in the election. So he wasn't going to put forward those details. So I think there's a little bit of, it may make sense for Governor Romney to look in the mirror on this issue.
Dan Pfeiffer, the communications director at the White House, also known as @Pfeiffer44 on Twitter. I follow you. I'm sure a lot of other people do as well. Dan, thanks very much for coming in.
Thank you, Wolf.
A close friend of Rick Santorum says the former senator might quit before the race, before his own state's primary if it looks like he's going down. We're live with what Santorum's campaign has to say about that. Plus, new claims Texas Governor Rick Perry was on painkillers while campaigning, but that's not what he told me. We're getting to the bottom of it. Stay with us.